They didn't recognize me at first. Why would they? The last time they saw me, I was the family disappointment serving coffee at their engagement party. But tonight I stood on a stage at the Portland Tech Summit holding a crystal award that read 30 under 35, CEO of the Year. The spotlights were hot on my face. 2,000 people filled the ballroom. And somewhere in the third row my brother Daniel sat, frozen, his champagne glass halfway to his lips. His wife Rachel wasn't clapping either. She just stared, her mouth slightly open like she was trying to solve a puzzle she didn't have all the pieces to. I saw the exact moment it clicked for her. Her eyes widened. She leaned over and whispered something to Daniel. He shook his head. She whispered again, more urgently this time. He looked down at his program, then back up at me. The moderator was still talking. Maya Rosen has transformed how small and mid-sized businesses approach digital engagement. Her company Beacon Social went from a one-woman operation to a multi-million-dollar platform in just 5 years. I smiled politely. Professionally. The way I'd learned to do in boardrooms when investors questioned my age, my experience, my right to be there. But inside I was 28 again. Standing in the back of that country club ballroom in a borrowed black dress, holding a tray of champagne flutes I hadn't been hired to serve. Just expected to. That night 6 years ago was the last time I let them define me. What they didn't know was that I'd spent every single day since then building something they couldn't see, couldn't measure, and definitely couldn't take credit for. And now they were about to find out exactly what the family disappointment had become. Let me take you back to who I was before all of this. Before the award. Before the company. Before the moment my family finally looked at me and saw something other than potential wasted. I was 28 years old, living in a 600-square-foot apartment in southeast Portland that smelled faintly of the Thai restaurant downstairs. My college degree in communications hung on the wall next to my secondhand IKEA bookshelf. I worked as a social media coordinator for a nonprofit called Green Future PDX. We had a staff of 7 people, a shoestring budget, and a mission to promote urban sustainability. I made $42,000 a year. Before taxes. My job was to make people care about composting bike lanes and community gardens using nothing but clever captions and a content calendar I built in Google Sheets. I was good at it. Really good. Our Instagram grew from 800 followers to 32,000 in 18 months. Our fundraising emails had open rates that made our director tear up during staff meetings. But I wasn't flashy. I was effective. And in my family, effective without prestige didn't count. My brother Daniel was a corporate lawyer at a firm downtown with his name on business cards that felt like linen. He made 6 figures straight out of law school. He wore suits that cost more than my monthly rent and talked about billable hours like they were trophies. My sister Priya was a pediatrician. She saved children's lives. She had plaques on her office wall and parents who wrote her thank you notes that she framed. She worked at Northwest Regional Hospital, which my mother mentioned at every opportunity. Then there was me. The social media girl. The one who worked on her laptop all day. The one my dad's friends politely nodded at when I explained what I did, then turned back to ask Daniel about a legal case. I didn't mind the work. I loved it, actually. I loved the puzzle of it. Figuring out what made people stop scrolling. Testing subject lines. Analyzing click-through rates. Finding the exact right image to make someone feel something enough to act. At night after my 9 to 5, I took on freelance clients. A local bakery that wanted to build a following, a yoga studio that needed help with ads, a divorce lawyer who had no idea how Facebook targeting worked. I charged modest rates and delivered results that made them refer me to their friends. I saved $18,000 that way, lived on pasta and ambition, learned everything I could about analytics, user behavior, SEO, email automation. I took free courses. I read case studies. I watched tutorials at midnight while eating cereal out of the box. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I was just trying to get better. My apartment was small, but it was mine. I had a desk by the window where the light came in just right in the morning. I had a French press and a running habit and a best friend named Lena who worked at Powell's Books and didn't care what my job title was. I had a life I'd built on my own terms. Quiet. Steady. Unremarkable to everyone but me. And that apparently was the problem. I need you to understand something. My parents weren't monsters. They didn't scream or hit or lock me in closets. They loved me in their way. They just loved my siblings more. And they didn't even try to hide it. It started small. The kind of thing you tell yourself doesn't matter when you're young because you don't have the language for it yet. My high school graduation was on the same night as Daniel's mock trial competition. I had an art show that evening. Nothing huge. Just student work displayed in the school library. I'd spent 3 months on a multimedia project about generational memory. My teacher said it was the best she'd seen in 15 years. My parents didn't come. They drove 2 hours to watch Daniel argue a fake case in front of volunteer judges. When I asked why they couldn't come to mine first just for an hour, my mom said, "Honey, Daniel worked so hard for this. Your art will still be there tomorrow." It wasn't. They took it down that night. College was worse. Priya got into medical school the same year I enrolled in undergrad. My parents sat me down at the kitchen table and explained very calmly that med school was expensive. They'd be covering her tuition, her housing, her books. They were sorry, but there wasn't enough for both of us. I said I understood. I applied for loans. I worked 2 jobs. I graduated with $31,000 in debt. Daniel got a $50,000 check for a down payment on his condo when he was 26. They handed it to him at his birthday dinner. My dad made a toast about generational wealth and smart investing. Everyone clapped. Priya got $30,000 when she got engaged. For the wedding, my mom said, crying happy tears. They paid for the venue, the photographer, the florist, everything. My mom spent 8 months planning it like it was a royal coronation. I got a card on my 25th birthday that said, "We believe in you." No check inside. When I asked once if they were planning to help me the way they'd helped Daniel and Priya, my dad looked genuinely confused. "You chose a low-paying field, Maya. We're not going to subsidize a lifestyle that doesn't build equity." Daniel and Priya invested in careers with returns. He said it like it was advice, like he was helping me. And maybe the worst part is I believed him. I internalized it. I thought if I just worked harder, achieved more, proved I could be stable on my own, they'd finally see me the way they saw Daniel and Priya. But it didn't matter what I did. At family gatherings, my parents introduced Priya as our daughter, the doctor, and Daniel as our son, the attorney. I was Maya, who does social media. Sometimes they added, she's still figuring things out. I was 27 years old. I had a degree, a full-time job, and a growing freelance business. I wasn't figuring anything out. I'd figured it out. They just didn't respect the answer. Thanksgiving 2015. That's when it all finally cracked open for me. We were at my parents' house. The whole family. Priya and her husband Anil. Daniel and his fiancée Rachel. Me. Dinner was the usual performance. My dad asked Daniel about a case. My mom asked Priya about the hospital. Rachel talked about her new role as a VP at a finance company. Everyone nodded approvingly, asked follow-up questions, toasted to success. No one asked me anything. After dinner, I was helping my mom clear the table. Just the 2 of us in the kitchen. She was rinsing plates and I was loading the dishwasher, and she said it so casually like she was commenting on the weather. "We're just worried you'll never be financially stable, Maya." I stopped mid-reach, a wine glass in my hand. "What?" She didn't even look at me. "You're almost 30. You're still renting. You don't have savings. You're not building anything. We just want you to be okay." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her I had $18,000 saved. That I was building something even if she couldn't see it. That I was okay, that I was more than okay, that I didn't need her approval to know my worth. But I didn't say any of that. I just put the glass down, walked out of the kitchen, got in my car, drove home, and I cried the whole way. Because the truth was, part of me still believed her. Part of me thought maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I'd never be enough. That belief lived in me like a second heartbeat. Quiet. Persistent. Poisonous. And it took me 6 more years to kill it. The invitation came in the mail 3 weeks later. Heavy cardstock. Embossed lettering. Daniel and Rachel's engagement party at the Riverside Country Club. I held it in my hands and felt my stomach tighten. I knew what these events were. Status showcases. Networking opportunities disguised as celebrations. Everyone dressed in their best, comparing careers and square footage and vacation homes. I almost didn't RSVP. Then my mom called. "You're coming to Daniel's party, right?" I hesitated. "I'm not sure. I might have work." "Maya." Her voice had that edge to it. The one that meant I was being difficult. "It's your brother's engagement party. Of course you're coming." "Okay. Yeah. I'll be there." "Good. Because we need someone to help serve drinks. Daniel's hiring staff, but you know how it is. Family should pitch in." I stopped walking. I was halfway to the grocery store, phone pressed to my ear, and I just stood there on the sidewalk like I'd been slapped. "You want me to serve drinks? Just help out. You don't mind, do you? You're so good at that kind of thing." I should have said no. I should have told her I was a guest, not an employee. But guilt is a reflex when you've been trained in it long enough. Sure, Mom. I'll help. She sounded relieved. Thank you, honey. Wear something nice but simple. Black would be good. She hung up before I could respond. The day of the party, I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes. I pulled out the only black dress I owned. Simple. Knee-length. The kind of thing you wear to a job interview or a funeral. I looked at myself in the mirror and felt invisible already. The country club was exactly what I expected. Valet parking. String quartet on the terrace. 200 guests in cocktail attire holding champagne flutes and talking about interest rates. I walked in through the main entrance, and immediately a woman in a catering uniform stopped me. Are you with the staff? Kitchen's through the back. No, I'm family. She looked skeptical but nodded and walked away. I found my mom near the bar talking to a couple I didn't recognize. She saw me, smiled tightly, and gestured toward a tray of drinks on a side table. Maya, can you pass these around? Thank you, sweetheart. Not a question. A directive. I picked up the tray. For the next hour, I moved through the crowd like a ghost. People took glasses from my hands without looking at my face. A man in a navy suit snapped his fingers at me and pointed to his empty glass. I watched my parents introduce Priya's husband Anil to a group of investors. This is Dr. Anil Mehta, cardiologist. Brilliant mind. They introduced Rachel to my dad's business partner, VP at Steinman Finance. She's going places. No one introduced me. I stood near the edge of the room, tray balanced on one hand, and watched my family perform. My dad laughed too loud. My mom touched people's arms when she talked the way she did when she wanted them to like her. Daniel worked the room like he was campaigning. At one point I saw my Aunt Susan approach my mom. She looked around confused. Where's your other daughter? My mom barely glanced up. Oh, she's around. She's helping out. Not she's right there. Not Maya's here. Just helping out. Like I was part of the hired staff. I felt something sharp and cold settle in my chest. A little later a guest stopped me. Middle-aged man. Expensive watch. Excuse me, can you get me another gin and tonic? I opened my mouth to say I wasn't working here. That I was family. But he'd already turned away back to his conversation. I went to the bar. Got him his drink. Brought it back. He didn't say thank you. During dinner there was a seating chart. I found my name at a table in the back corner. Not the family table. Not even close. I sat between two of Rachel's coworkers who spent the entire meal talking across me like I wasn't there. At the family table I watched my parents Priya and Anil, Daniel and Rachel. Laughing. Toasting. My dad stood up and gave a speech about legacy and love and how proud he was of his son. He didn't mention me once. After dinner I went to the bathroom. Locked myself in a stall. And I let myself feel it. The humiliation. The anger. The exhausting, suffocating weight of being unwanted in a room full of people who shared my blood. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, but I hadn't cried. I wouldn't let myself. I walked back out into the party and nobody noticed I'd been gone. That should have been my first clue. Not that they didn't see me, but that I was done trying to be seen. The toast started after dessert. Daniel stood up first, microphone in hand, grinning like he'd already won something. Maybe he had. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight, he said. The room quieted. This wouldn't be possible without the people who shaped me. My brilliant fiancée, Rachel, who challenges me every day to be better. My accomplished sister, Road Priya, who set the bar so high I'm still trying to reach it. Laughter. Applause. And of course my parents, who built an empire and taught us what it means to work hard and dream big. More applause. My dad wiped his eyes. My mom beamed. Daniel raised his glass. To family. To family, the room echoed. I stood in the back holding an empty tray and felt the air go out of my lungs. He hadn't said my name. Not once. I wasn't part of the family he was thanking. I wasn't part of the story he was telling. I wasn't part of anything. Rachel's father went next. David Brennan. Venture capitalist. The kind of man who wore his wealth like a cologne. He took the microphone and smiled at the crowd like he owned it. I've known the Rosen family for a few years now, he said. And I have to say I'm so proud my daughter is joining a family of achievers. A doctor. A lawyer. Entrepreneurs who understand the value of excellence. He looked directly at my parents when he said it. They nodded proud. I wanted to disappear. A woman next to me tapped my shoulder. She was older, dressed in cream silk, holding an empty glass. Excuse me, can you get me another gin and tonic? I looked at her. Then at the tray in my hands. Then at my mother, who was 10 feet away watching. She saw. She said nothing. I took the woman's glass. Walked to the bar. got her drink, brought it back. She didn't say thank you. Later after the toasts, I finally sat down at a table. Not the family table. That one was full. I sat at a table near the back with people I didn't know. My dad's business partner Greg was there. He smiled politely when I sat down. So Maya, what do you do? I'd answered this question 1,000 times. I was tired of it, but I smiled. I do digital marketing. He nodded. Not interested. Oh, nice. Social media stuff? Yeah. Strategy analytics content. Cool. He turned to the man next to him and started talking about golf. I sat there invisible again. A few minutes later, I heard my mom's voice at the next table. She was talking to one of Rachel's aunts, a woman with a loud laugh and too much jewelry. So all 3 of your kids are successful? The woman asked. My mom hesitated, just for a second. Well, Priya and Daniel absolutely. Maya's still finding herself. We're hoping she'll go back to school for something more practical. I felt my face go hot. I stared down at my plate. Still finding herself. Like I was 22 and backpacking through Europe. Like I didn't have a career, a savings account, a life I'd built with my own hands. I wanted to stand up, walk over, correct her. But I didn't. I just sat there and let her erase me. The humiliations kept stacking. A waiter spilled wine near my table. My mom caught my eye and nodded toward the spill. I got up, found napkins, cleaned it. When they took the family photo, the photographer gathered everyone on the terrace. Immediate family and significant others only, my mom said. I stepped back. Priya, Anil, Daniel, Rachel, my parents. They smiled. The camera flashed. I stood off to the side and watched. Later my parents presented Daniel with a gift. A Rolex. Rose gold. $15,000. My dad made a speech about how proud they were that he'd passed the bar, how this was just the beginning of a legacy. Daniel cried. Everyone clapped. I thought about the card I got on my birthday. The one with no check inside. I thought about my student loans. My studio apartment. The $18,000 I'd saved in secret, because no one ever asked if I needed help. I felt something crack inside me. Not break. Just crack. Like ice on a frozen lake when the temperature starts to shift. Then Rachel's mother found me. I was standing near the kitchen trying to stay out of the way when she walked up holding a dirty dessert plate. She smiled at me like we were friends. Oh honey, can you take this? She handed it to me. And I think table 7 needs water. She thought I worked here. I looked down at the plate in my hands. Smeared chocolate. A crumpled napkin. I looked at her. She was already walking away. I stood there for a long moment. Then I walked into the kitchen. Set the plate on the counter. Kept walking. Found the bathroom. Locked the door. And I cried. Not the kind of crying that makes noise. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and silent and raw. The kind that feels like your body is trying to expel something it can't name. I cried because I'd spent my whole life trying to earn a place at a table I was never going to get a seat at. I cried because I knew in that moment that nothing I ever did would be enough for them. I cried because I was 28 years old and I was tired. And then I stopped. I washed my face. Fixed my makeup. Looked at myself in the mirror. And I made a decision. I was done. I was still in the bathroom when I heard voices in the adjacent lounge. The walls were thin. Country club elegant, but cheap construction underneath. I recognized Rachel's voice first. Then Priya's. I should have left. Should have walked out. But I froze. Is your sister always this awkward? Rachel asked. There was a pause. Then Priya laughed. Not a mean laugh. Worse. A casual one. Like she was talking about the weather. Maya. Yeah, she's never really fit in. My parents are honestly kind of embarrassed. I stopped breathing. Really? Rachel sounded surprised. I mean, she seems nice. She is nice, Priya said. But she makes okay money, nothing impressive. She does social media for some tiny nonprofit. My parents keep hoping she'll marry someone successful or go back to school for something practical. My hand gripped the edge of the sink. Does she even have a boyfriend? Rachel asked. Priya laughed again. Doubt it. She's too focused on her little social media hobby. Hobby. That word landed like a slap. I'd spent years building skills, learning platforms, growing audiences, driving real results for real organizations. And to my own sister it was a hobby. Something I did to pass the time until I figured out my real life. They kept talking, but I stopped listening. I stared at myself in the mirror. My face was blotchy from crying. My eyes were red. I looked small, tired, defeated. And then something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. There was no music swelling in the background. No movie moment. Just a thought, quiet and clear like a voice I hadn't heard in years. I'm 28 years old. I'm good at what I do. And I'm done trying to impress people who don't see me. I took a breath. Then another. They weren't going to see me. Not because I wasn't worth seeing, but because they'd already decided who I was and nothing I did was going to change that. My parents had decided I was the one who didn't measure up. Priya had decided I was the awkward one. Daniel had decided I didn't matter enough to mention in a toast. And I had spent years trying to prove them wrong by playing a game they'd rigged from the start. I was done playing. I wiped my face one last time, fixed my hair, walked out of the bathroom with my head up. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I just walked through the country club past the string quartet, past the tables full of people who hadn't noticed I existed, and out to my car. No one stopped me. No one called my name. No one noticed I was gone. I drove home in silence. No radio. No tears. Just the sound of the engine and the streetlights passing overhead. When I got back to my apartment, I didn't change out of my dress. I didn't pour a glass of wine or call Lena to vent. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and typed into the search bar. How to start a business. I didn't have a plan yet. I didn't have a product or a pitch or a name. But I had something I hadn't had 2 hours ago. Clarity. I wasn't going to waste another second trying to fit into their version of success. I was going to build my own. And I was going to do it so well, so undeniably, that one day they'd look at me and realize they'd been wrong. Not because I needed their approval, but because I wanted them to know what they'd missed. I stayed up until 3 in the morning reading articles, watching videos, taking notes. My hand cramped from writing. My eyes burned from the screen. But I didn't stop. Because that night in a country club bathroom listening to my sister call my career a hobby, I'd made a choice. I wasn't their disappointment anymore. I was something else entirely. And they had no idea what was coming. The next 6 months I disappeared. Not physically. I still showed up to my job. I still paid my rent. But the part of me that had spent years seeking validation from my family just went quiet. I stopped posting on social media. Stopped calling my mom every Sunday. Stopped going to family dinners unless it was unavoidable. And I started building. I enrolled in online courses. Business development through Coursera. UX design on Udemy. Data analytics from a free MIT program I found at 2 in the morning. I watched lectures on my lunch breaks and took notes in notebooks I kept stacked by my bed. My freelance income kept coming in. I didn't spend it. Every dollar went into a savings account I labeled Launch Fund. By March 2017, I had $18,000. I'd been studying the market for months. I saw the gap clearly. Small businesses wanted social media management, but agencies were expensive and freelancers were inconsistent. They needed something affordable, effective, and easy to use. A platform that combined content scheduling, analytics, and customer engagement in one place. So I started building it. Nights. Weekends. Every free hour I had. I taught myself basic coding. I sketched wireframes on graph paper. I tested prototypes on my freelance clients and asked for brutal feedback. In May, I quit my job at the nonprofit. My boss was kind about it. You're going to do something big, Maya. I can feel it. I didn't tell my family. When my mom called and asked how work was going, I said, still doing marketing. She assumed I meant the same job. I didn't correct her. At family events, when my dad's friends asked what I was up to, I smiled and said, same as always. They nodded, lost interest, moved on. Good. I stopped needing their approval. I started needing my own respect. My first client was a bakery in Northeast Portland. The owner, Claire, had been buying Facebook ads with no strategy and getting no results. I onboarded her onto my platform, set up a content calendar, ran targeted campaigns. Her revenue went up 32% in 6 weeks. She told her friend who owned a yoga studio. That became client 2. The yoga studio owner told her lawyer. That became client 3. By the end of my first quarter, I had 9 clients and $6,000 in revenue. I didn't celebrate. I reinvested it. I hired a contractor, a developer named Sam, who worked remotely from Seattle. He cleaned up my code, improved the interface, made the platform faster and more intuitive. I kept my head down. I worked 16-hour days. I lived on savings and freelance contracts and meals that came out of cans. I didn't go to Priya's birthday party. Didn't RSVP to Daniel's housewarming. My mom left a voicemail. Maya, we barely see you anymore. Is everything okay? The kind you carry quietly, like a secret only you know. 2 years later, Beacon Social had 47 clients, $340,000 in annual revenue, and 3 employees working out of a shared office space in Southeast Portland. I got an invitation to Praya's baby shower. Pale pink cardstock. Embossed stork in the corner. I almost didn't go, but I wanted to see if anything had changed. It hadn't. I arrived to find it wasn't a baby shower. It was a success circle brunch at a rooftop restaurant downtown. Praya's doctor friends. Rachel's finance colleagues. My mom's country club set. Mimosas and avocado toast, and women in designer dresses holding designer purses. The gift table looked like a boutique registry exploded. Luxury strollers. Designer diaper bags. A cashmere baby blanket that probably cost more than my rent. I'd brought a practical gift. A baby carrier I'd researched for 3 hours. $80. I set it on the table and felt immediate regret. During brunch, Praya stood up glowing in a white maternity dress that probably cost $400. She tapped her glass. I just want to thank everyone for being here. And I have some exciting news to share. She gestured to Rachel. Rachel just got promoted to VP at Steinman Finance. The room erupted in applause. Rachel stood blushing, waving it off like it was nothing. My mom beamed. And Daniel made partner at his firm last month. More applause. More congratulations. Praya smiled. And I just found out I'm being promoted to head of pediatrics at Northwest Regional. The applause was deafening. Women stood. Someone whistled. Then the room went quiet. Everyone was looking at me. My mom's smile tightened. She turned to the woman next to her, a friend from the country club, and said loudly enough for the whole table to hear, Maya's still doing her marketing thing. We keep telling her she should get her MBA, but... She trailed off. Shrugged. Like I was a lost cause. Rachel's colleague, a woman in a blazer that screamed corporate ambition, leaned forward. She was trying to be nice. I could tell. Oh, social media. That's fun. Do you do Instagram for influencers? A few people laughed. Not mean. Just dismissive. I smiled politely. Something like that. My mom couldn't get away from the subject fast enough. Anyway, let's eat. The quiche looks amazing. Conversation shifted. I sat there invisible again, holding a mimosa I didn't want. No one asked about my work. No one asked if I was happy. No one asked anything. Because they'd already decided. I was still the disappointment. Still the one who hadn't figured it out. And in that moment I realized something. I didn't need to defend myself. I just needed to wait. 6 months later, everything changed. Beacon Social landed a contract with a regional hospital network. 12 locations. Enterprise-level package. The kind of deal that changes a business overnight. Our revenue hit $1.2 million. I was profiled in the Portland Business Journal. Hired 12 employees. Moved into a real office space in the Pearl District with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. I got invited to speak at a tech conference about scalable growth strategies for service-based startups. I still didn't tell my family. Then Daniel called. Hayward question. His voice was casual. My firm is looking for a social media management platform. Someone recommended a company called Beacon Social. You know anything about them? My heart stopped. I kept my voice steady. Why? We're vetting vendors. I have a meeting with the CEO next week. Just wondered if you'd heard of it in your circles. I could barely breathe. I've heard of it. It's solid. Cool. Thanks. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. Then I called my business partner, Lena. She'd joined me full-time a year earlier, handling client relations while I focused on product and growth. Daniel's firm just requested a demo, I said. She was quiet for a second. Your brother Daniel? Yeah. Does he know? No. And I want to keep it that way. You handle the meeting. Don't mention me. She paused. You sure? Positive. Daniel's firm became client number 73. He never knew I owned the company. Lena handled everything. He signed the contract, sent the payment, told his partners how impressed he was with the platform. And I said nothing. 4 months later, my parents celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary. Another event. Another country club. Another room full of people performing success. 150 guests this time. A live band. A slideshow of old family photos that included exactly 2 pictures of me. I stood in the back in a navy dress holding a glass of wine. I wasn't drinking, watching my family work the room. During the speeches, my mom stood up and thanked everyone for coming. She talked about her children with that same proud smile she always wore. Our 3 children, she said. Daniel, who just made partner at one of the top law firms in the city. Praya, who's now head of pediatrics at Northwest Regional. And Maya, who's doing well in her own way. Polite chuckles. a few sympathetic smiles in my direction. I didn't react. I just stood there. Then Daniel stood up. "I want to say something," he said. He had the microphone. The room quieted. "Mom, Dad, thank you for everything. And I also want to thank a business that's completely transformed our firm's outreach over the past few months." My chest tightened. It's called Beacon Social. The CEO couldn't be here tonight, but her team is incredible. If anyone here runs a business and needs help with digital strategy, one can't recommend them enough. A few people nodded. Someone asked for the name again. Daniel repeated it. My dad's business partner Greg was standing next to me. He turned and asked casually, "Do you know Beacon Social?" I looked at him, then at the room, then at my brother still holding the microphone smiling. I spoke clearly, calmly. "I own it." Greg blinked. "What?" "I own Beacon Social. I'm the CEO." The people around me went quiet. Someone heard and turned. Then someone else. Daniel heard. He turned, still holding the microphone. "Wait, what?" I stepped forward. My voice was steady. Louder now. "I'm the CEO of Beacon Social. I have been for 3 years. Your firm is one of my 180 clients. My company did $2.1 million in revenue last year. I have 15 employees. And I built it from my living room while you all assumed I was failing." The room went completely silent.
My mom's face drained of color. My dad stood frozen, his glass halfway to his mouth. Priya's eyes went wide. Rachel, standing next to Daniel, whispered something to him. He looked down at his phone, pulled up our website, scrolled to the About page. There was my picture. CEO and founder. He looked up at me. His mouth opened but nothing came out. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't gloat. I just stood there calm and certain and let the truth settle over the room like snow. My mom finally found her voice. "Maya, why didn't you tell us?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I said the thing I'd been holding in for years. "Because you never asked." My mom tried to recover. Her voice shook. "Maya, why didn't you tell us?" I looked at her. Calm. Clear. "Because you never asked what I was actually doing. You asked if I'd go back to school. If I'd get a real job. If I'd found a successful husband. You never asked if I was happy. If I was proud of my work. If I needed support." My dad stepped forward. "We were just worried. You were embarrassed." I cut him off. Not with anger. With clarity. And I spent years trying to change that. Trying to be enough. Trying to fit into your version of success. But I don't do that anymore. The room was still silent. Everyone watching. "I'm not here to prove anything to you," I said. "I came tonight because you're my parents. Because I still love you even when you make it hard. But I'm done shrinking myself to fit your expectations. I'm done apologizing for choosing a path you didn't understand." I set my glass down on the nearest table. The sound echoed. I'm proud of what I built. I'm proud of the work I do. I'm proud of the person I've become. I looked at my mom. Then my dad. Then Daniel. And I don't need you to be. I turned and walked toward the door. My heels clicked on the marble floor. No one stopped me. No one said my name. I walked out of that country club with my head high and my heart finally free. The next day I woke up to 17 missed calls. 3 from my mom. 4 from my dad. 5 from Priya. 2 from Daniel. 3 from numbers I didn't recognize. My mom's voicemail was shaky. "Maya, we need to talk. Please call me back." Daniel's text came in at 6:30 in the morning. I had no idea. "I'm sorry." Priya sent a message an hour later. "Can we meet? I want to explain." I didn't respond to any of them. Not that day. Not the next. Not for a full week. I went to work. I met with clients. I reviewed quarterly projections with Lena. I lived my life exactly the way I had been living it, and I didn't let their sudden need for my attention disrupt that. Eventually I agreed to meet my mom for coffee. Not because I owed her an explanation, but because I wanted to see if she understood. She cried within 5 minutes. "We pushed you because we wanted you to be secure," she said, her hands wrapped around a latte she wasn't drinking. "We just wanted you to have stability. A safe career." I looked at her across the table. You pushed me because I didn't fit your image. She flinched. That's not fair. It's true. I kept my voice calm. You weren't worried about my security. You were embarrassed that I didn't have a title you could brag about. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You didn't ask, I said. That's the point. You assumed. And you treated me like I was less than because of it. She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold hers either. I'm not angry anymore, I said. But I'm also not going to pretend we're close. That takes time. And it takes you actually seeing me. Not the version of me you wanted. The real me. She nodded, still crying. Can we try? Maybe, I said. But I'm not going to rush it. I left 20 minutes later. She stayed at the table. Months passed. Daniel got married. I was invited this time as an actual guest. I wore a green dress and sat with family during the ceremony. When people asked what I did, my parents introduced me as CEO of Beacon Social. It should have felt like a victory. It just felt hollow. I was polite. Distant. I congratulated Daniel. I smiled for photos. But I didn't pretend everything was fine. At the reception, Daniel found me alone near the bar. I was an asshole, he said. No preamble. Just honesty. I didn't see you. I should have. I looked at him. I know. He waited like he expected me to say it was okay. To absolve him. I didn't. I'm working on it, he said finally. Good, I said. That was all. Our relationship stayed civil. Cordial. But boundaried. I didn't go to every family dinner. I didn't return every call. I showed up when I wanted to, not when I was expected to. And slowly they started to understand that I didn't need them the way I used to. By 2021, Beacon Social hit $6 million in revenue. We expanded to 2 offices. Hired 43 employees. I was featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. My parents came to the award ceremony in New York. They sat in the audience and clapped when my name was called. I saw them afterward. My mom hugged me. My dad said he was proud. I smiled. Said thank you. But I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt free. Because their approval didn't define me anymore. Their pride didn't validate me. I had built something real, something mine, and it existed whether they saw it or not. And that, more than any award or revenue milestone, was the thing I was most proud of. I didn't need them to finally see me. I'd already seen myself. People ask me if I forgive my family. I don't think forgiveness is the right word. Forgiveness implies they asked for it. That we had some tearful reconciliation where
it's waking up every day and choosing yourself. Today I sit in my office, overlooking the city. My team is in a conference room down the hall laughing about something I can't quite hear. We're building something that matters. Something that helps people. And I'm smiling. Not because I proved my family wrong, but because I proved me right. I was the underdog. And I didn't just survive. I built a life I'm proud of. On my terms. In my own time. With my own hands. And that's the only victory that ever really mattered.